Welcome to the Patriot Barbie podcast. This show is made possible by Spreely Media. Download the Freedom Hub app today and join the free speech movement. I want to thank the people and the companies that keep my show going. All my sponsors can be found on patriotbarbie.com on my shop page. Century H2O, water systems for your home that provide clean, toxic free, fluoride free, and pharmaceutical free drinking water for your family and pets for under $300. Dylan's Restaurants has been a proud podcast partner for years, and the owner is my personal friend. With 4 locations throughout Arizona, you'll always find one to dine at and love, especially the zoo. Well, especially the ranch. Well, maybe the one floating on Lake Pleasant. Dang it, they're all good. Support your freedom loving businesses and please check out Dylan's Restaurants. Small business owners, claim your employee retention tax credit for 2020 and 21 with an accountant you can trust. If you don't know what this is, you could be missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars. Go to patriotbarbie.com and click on my partners page to read up. My Freedom Cart, a conservative owned, made in America, toxic free company that lets you shop online and delivers everything to your front door. Clean products, protein, snacks, hair care, makeup, toiletries. Dude, ditch Amazon, keep the perks, and support a pro life and pro freedom company. MyFreedomCart.com. My beautiful smile is brought to you by Dr. Daniel Slyke. His dental team is passionate, detailed, gentle, and clearly very talented. My entire smile has been restored to stunning, and I owe it all to him. He's right here in Scottsdale, and consults are free. Go to patriotbarbie.com, look him up, and schedule your free consultation. You guys, once again, you can find all my partners, my makeup line, my Patriot wine, my merch company, and the Freedom Cart at patriotbarbie.com under the shop page. Now, are you ready to get started? Let's go. Welcome to the Patriot Barbie podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Graham, author and conservative activist. I love Jesus. I love America. I'm a proud wife, mom of 3, and I'm having bold and witty conversations with America's patriots, the ones that cancel culture desperately want to blacklist. Trust me, I've been there. In 2020, I defied government lockdowns in Oregon, reopened my salon, and became an icon of freedom. I've been targeted by government and raging liberals every day since, and I refuse to back down. Patriots, I'm here to tell you, your values are worth fighting for. The Patriot Barbie podcast starts now. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Patriot Barbie podcast. As you are well aware, I'm on like a super health kick. For a little bit of time here, I've started to kind of question what's in our water, what's in our food, what's the government doing to us. We've seen a drastic decline in the health of Americans. We've seen an uprise in health issues. We've seen some concerning things surrounding the medical community. Why are people so sick? Why are they so sick all the time? Why is the medicine they're taking making them sicker? So then why are they being prescribed more medicine, which makes them sicker with something else? It's a never-ending cycle. I've been diving into a lot of health and wellness companies, doctors, virtual doctors, stumbled into the Root brand wellness. Their website is rootbrandswellness.com. And joining me today to talk about the products, the science behind it, the chemistry, the why is it good for you, is the CEO, Clayton. And I'm excited. I've been trying these products. Let's start with this one, the Restore. I've been reading up on this. It's a lot of this stuff is probiotic cleansing, gut cleansing. I'm not a scientist, so again, I'm going to let Clay talk about it. But stuff that you can just pop in your mouth, take really quick, and start to kind of revitalize your body. Personal favorite, and Clay, I want to talk to you about this when I bring you in, is the Zero In. Look at this is how you know it's my favorite. I don't even have the box. I have a pack in my cabinet that I can just yank out. I have a pack like this in my purse, and I'm down to the last. It's called Zero In, and it's supposed to be kind of a mental clarity pill. And there's something to be said about when you read about a medicine or a product, you take it, but you already know what it's supposed to do. And then you kind of maybe convince yourself, oh yeah, I felt different. I got all these products from Root brand. And this was something I kind of, honestly, I grabbed and I took it, right? Okay, I'm going to try these products, see what they do. I sincerely didn't know what the product was supposed to do. I took it before an interview on primetime national Fox News. And thank God it wasn't, like a metabolism thing or make you all anxious. It was a mental clarity. And I remember going back in that interview and going, man, I like knew what I was saying. I knew what I was trying to say. The words came to me. I felt so clear and concise. So I'm stoked about some of these products. And I'm really excited to find out what else they have. So welcome to the show, please, Clayton. What?
Lindsay, thank you for
You're
having
so
me.
cool. If I saw you in a grocery
No,
store,
I'm a
I wouldn't say that's a wellness guy.
you say that you know what that guy's probably married to a really dynamic woman that took him as a template and said, "Here, do this." You know, I'm the byproduct of what guys should be. I'm the one who married up like way up, and I listen to my wife, and my wife is an artist in every aspect. You can
I
see
do.
some
I,
of
was- I was going to say, I
her
see it
paintings.
behind you. That's amazing. Weren't you guys talented?
So it well, one of us is really talented. The other one was made to serve her. So
I'm going to have you
you know,
talk to my
I
husband.
know it's one of the things I love to do now. It's like, look, I will teach guys how to behave. It's like if you want to do really well in life, lift your wife up and allow her to become what God made her to do, and life will be really good for you.
Mm,
But you
so
you
cool.
hit on some really crucial points. And when you look at the healthcare of this
Hmm.
country, right? This the system that's been built is not predicated on creating wellness, and it's not created on creating health. It's about monetizing
Yeah.
sickness. Yeah, we have a system that's been predicated on sick
Hmm.
care, right? And we look at the military industrial complex for the amount of money that is sucked out of our pockets and out of the system through the military. The other aspect is the healthcare system. It's trillions upon trillions of dollars, that moves through
Right.
healthcare, and it's not predicated on the healthcare. And what I think some of the things that you've gone over, and that the people that are more aware of what's going on in the world, have become cognizant of, our
Hmm.
disclosures, right? And my wife, who is the artist, right? Dr. Christina Rom, she holds a master's in science, a PhD, a PsyD, EDD, postdoc at Harvard in nanotechnology and bioscience engineering that she did from 2018 to 2020. She was an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins in oncology, and she worked at Pfizer, Alexion, Biogen, IDEC, Johnson and Johnson, UCB, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Janssen, and those are
Whoa.
important for a couple reasons. And some of the things that she learned in her journey, and she had Lyme disease when she was 19, so she lost her memory. She grew up with a photographic memory and lost it, came out of it with an eidetic memory and the ability to speed read. Um, our oldest son, which was not mine, but her oldest son, he's my kid now, was a partial molar pregnancy. So she had twins, and one of the twins became cancer. And
Oh my gosh.
in lieu of having a medical abortion, she chose to carry him to term, and ended up having a brain tumor, a spine tumor, multiple kinds of skin cancer, because there was no treatment she could do that wasn't going to kill the son.
Mm.
And through this journey, she's been able to learn a lot. And one of the things that she's spoken about pretty heavily over um, the last decade is what the real underlying cause of our problems is. And it's funny that here just recently, over the last, well, it's 3 weeks ago that it debuted, that we were given an exposure to something that most people didn't think was really the problem. And what's funny is, if you know, you know. But when it's shown to you, you think it's sci-fi. And I don't know if you've seen the new series The Last of Us, right, or heard about it.
I
It's
haven't.
new
Mm-mm.
on HBO, and the premise of the show, um, if you watch the first 3.5 minutes of the first episode, you'll understand what's been done in our society, and it's really intriguing because it pertains to everything you mentioned about healthcare. Why are people getting sicker? Why are we having all of these mental
Hmm.
health issues? Why are we having all these cognition issues? Why is it that you can have all of these treatments but people never get better? Because they're never treating the
Right.
underlying causes.
Yeah.
And when Dr. Rom was at Pfizer 20 plus years ago, the former director of the CIA, she was in medical science and clinical science, so she wasn't just a lab rat or working in sales or marketing. Um, she she can recall having a meeting with the former director of the CIA who told them that there was no longer going to be nuclear war, that it was going to be biological,
Mm.
and outlined a few things that would take place, and that Pfizer would be at the forefront of addressing that. Fast forward a little bit, and you think, well, this is intriguing.
Yeah.
When she was at Bristol Myers Squibb 16 years ago, there was an issue that was prevalent in the United States population called HIV, right? And they were
Okay.
working on a vaccine for HIV using a messenger RNA delivery mechanism.
Okay.
She was on the research team that did the first mRNA research on as a drug delivery. She knows all the data. People that say that this wasn't tested and they didn't know what it was doing, that's not true. They know
Hmm.
everything of what it was going to do, and they knew
Yeah.
back then that they should never use it in humans because all the animal trials were horrific of what happened. And when then through this process, when she was finishing the stuff at Harvard, because she knew this was coming. She worked in China 9 years ago, setting up hospitals with the Chinese government. So she's very closely connected to some of the top neurosurgeons and top doctors in the country. She then has been able to meet with. She's been to 87 countries. She's had an opportunity to meet people all over the world of really high level, from kings to prime ministers to presidents, and all the fun things you get when you wander a little bit.
Yeah.
And the the outline of what was going to take place has been known by those people that are knowledgeable and connected to some of these things for a while. So she went back to Harvard to understand what level of science is being done right now from a bioscience engineering perspective, so she could work to create some alternatives,
Hmm.
and using what nature's given us versus taking aspects of nature and synthesizing it, um, and having all the side effects, because what nature provides is a good thing. She's been all over the world. She's had the opportunity to go through at Harvard their nanotechnology and bioscience engineering program for 3 years. And in the class, they did, I think, one or two series of this 3 year program. They stopped it with the class she was in. There was 19 people. They ceased it after she was done because they couldn't find people that could qualify.
Huh.
And it was biotech, research, and military. Those were the
So
three
people not smart enough or not,
branches.
did you have to have prerequisites they didn't complete or?
You had to have all the prereqs, but the just the people that could complete the program weren't available,
Interesting.
because in each class they actually had to create something
Hmm.
using what they were learning in the class. So some of the products that we're launching here, that we're actually debuting in Fashion Week in New York in the next 2 weeks, were the byproducts of what she created through doing this program. She created a
Oh,
new
that's
skin
cool.
coating that you can spray on your skin to protect your skin from viruses and from fungus and different environment radiation
Oh, that's
exposure.
cool. I feel like
And on
that's a game changer for daycares. Pitch that to daycares
and,
immediately.
with what's happening, you're starting to hear things in the media, right? And most of I would assume your audience is very well aware that they can take anything you hear in the mainstream media or really anywhere written, that it's got some semblance of spin and influence on it. But you're starting to hear chatter about, oh, well, you need to stock up on nuclear exposure supplies. Don't worry about that. I mean, honestly, if the points that they were the military or our government, or not really our government, we really know who's in charge, but the facade of what's going on right now, saying that they're going to send depleted uranium rounds over to Ukraine, that will necessitate a nuclear war.
Yeah.
Because those weapons are nuclear weapons. They're horrible. That's how we destroyed the Middle East back during the Gulf War. And the carnage that is caused from that exposure is something that continues today with the birth defects and cancer and everything that they have in the Middle East. Those are things you need to address. But if there's a full-blown nuclear war, it's freaking over anyway.
There's no brand that's going to help us get out of that.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you know what? Take a little extra iodine. You're going to be fine. Like, no, you're pretty well screwed at that point. Like, people are
I'm
like,
loading up on my collagen.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Global warming's no longer the issue because we're in a nuclear winter.
Yeah.
But looking at how this game is played, she had an understanding of what was coming and then how to counter it. So what she set out to do, and this was about 5 years ago, was creating the solutions. And the one thing that she knew when we met 8 years ago and we were having these conversations and things that she's written on and spoken about, and even she learned when she was an adjunct professor in Hopkins in oncology, is the issues of fungus. That it's not our biggest issue is not viral, it is not bacterial, it is fungal. And if you're a woman, you know how bad fungal infections can be when they pop up in some aspects.
Right.
But it's the fungus, it's heavy metals and environmental toxins that create the breeding environment for fungus to proliferate. And inside the fungus, you have parasites that grow. And then they all feed and create absolute chaos. So these are the problems that we face. And so when you look at the healthcare system, one, doctors aren't taught mycology. They're not taught about fungus.
Now that you say that, it's like it's a word I haven't heard probably for 2 years. And we've got the biggest epidemic in medical misconduct and misprogramming and misdiagnosing. And yet fungus is not a word that's on my radar.
It's something that's never used. But what's intriguing is when you look at some aspects of we'll say the supplement industry, right? And you look at nootropics, what are people focusing on? They're focusing on fungus, right? On mycology, whether it's cordyceps or lion's mane and all these different mushrooms that have these benefits. What's interesting is it could be those mushrooms that end up killing us and taking over control of everything that operates in here. So this gets into the play of how you address the larger issue, right? Of what we are, what we were made to be, what we've been controlled to become. Because while we are human, right, we are not what we were made to be right now. We've been completely controlled. And we've been poisoned for about 7 generations. And this is an important part to understand as far as how those parties that want to control us function. They don't function on an annual basis. They don't look at decades. They function on a generational basis. And it's the Chinese philosophy of warfare and business. They don't worry about beating you in the first couple decades, but over time they will win. If you look at how the Chinese have structured their business with the United States, with trade wars and everything else, now they own the majority of the farmland in the United States, the majority of the rendering plants for animals in the United States. They own most of our debt. They control us, and they've got tons of people here, and they've got
Scary.
access to
Very
come across
scary.
the borders.
Yeah.
And they're supplying the cartels with all the fentanyl that just so happens to come across our borders, that are being packed in to kill us. So
Hmm.
you
Yep.
you can't look at what's been going on as a campaign that's happened over the last 3 years, because you're going to miss the entire aspect of what's been going on. We've been poisoned for about 7 generations with mercury, lead, aluminum, cesium, strontium, gadolinium, graphene. Graphene's not new. Graphene's been put in people for over 30 years to get us to this
So
point,
is this
right?
through
Because
water,
what's been
food?
going on, water, food, air, soil, all of it.
Okay.
What you were hitting on is something that is absolute. What's going on in the water? Why did
Hmm.
they ever put fluoride in water supplies? Why did we put fluoride in little cups for kids to swish in school?
Hmm.
When the Nazis were using it because they knew that if they put it in the water supply, they could lower your IQ and dumb you down and make you more docile and controllable.
Hmm.
Was that
Hmm.
part of the same
Huh.
campaign?
Sounds like it, because I'm
Now,
seeing that happening.
I have paper clips in my drawer, but Project Paperclip seems to have been a completely different thing. And you you begin to you put these little things together, and you look at the three really bad metals, mercury, lead, and aluminum, which are neurotoxic heavy metals.
Mhm.
And you look at our exposure to those, but you have to understand what these guys do. Mercury is the worst neurotoxin known to man. It's the second most deadly chemical behind dioxin, right? And mercury is so nefarious, though, that it won't just kill you. It will disrupt every system of your body, but do it differently in every individual. So you have one substance that will create
Wow.
all of these different symptoms in each of us differently. And then when you look at
Hmm.
the establishment knows what's been going on because they helped provide it. But then they created a medical system that was predicated on identifying a symptom or a group of symptoms and diagnosing it as a disease that they could prescribe to, knowing that they never address the cause, that they're only addressing the symptomology, giving those set of symptoms a diagnosis. They give you a drug for that. They're going to find other
Hmm.
symptoms that they're going to give you another diagnosis for. So they give you another drug. The complications of the two drugs they gave you are going to lead to another diagnosis and need for other drugs to treat not only the side effects of what those drugs are doing, but also the complications that you're continually going to have because your continual exposure to other toxins compounds over time, and you just become a chemistry set that's worth a lot of money to them because they're just
Wow.
continually circulating money through the system. So you have to
Oh my
take
gosh.
the time to understand the game. Now, when we look at aluminum, people are worried about graphene because of what, and most people don't even understand what graphene does, right? Graphene's really unique, and graphene will amalgamate and hold on like a magnet to other heavy metals and these components. And this is why people are clotting like crazy, because the graphene is binding
Hmm.
to all the other mercury and lead and aluminum and all these other metals and toxins in your system, and they're highly inflammatory, and that's what's creating these clots. But if you remember what aluminum is, right? It and you're young like I am, you can probably remember having a television
Thank
that
you.
had rabbit ears on it, or your antenna that sat on top of your
Hmm.
house before we had satellites and everything was an aluminum antenna, because aluminum is conductive of electricity and frequencies and signals. Now, why is that important? Because if they load you with these metals that are resonators for frequencies, and they just so happen to calcify and deactivate our primary antenna, which happens to be our pineal gland, right? Which is controlling the circadian rhythm, so your sleep and wake cycle, which is the most important aspect of our life, is
Uh-huh.
sleep and deep REM sleep. Because if we don't sleep, we don't create, we don't problem solve, we don't recover, and we die slowly and we go crazy. So they've
Yeah.
really
Wow.
well concocting this entire mechanism. But if aluminum is an antenna and it can receive signals, and people then can start to understand why these 5G frequencies are bad. It's not that the frequencies themselves are disruptive. It's the fact that you've been loaded with the antennas that are in your brain and throughout your entire
Hmm.
body that are the receivers for whatever signals they're going to want to send. But here's the biggest thing: the signals aren't just coming from the frickin' antennas from 5G towers. If you're familiar with HARP, with high altitude, um, what is it called? The high altitude aerial research project, right? The weather, weaponizing the weather. They're able to start sending frequencies from not just satellites, not just towers, but cloud based because of how they've geoengineered the planet with all the spraying and
Gosh.
everything. So you
Yeah.
go from top down. Then we look at glyphosate with its introduction in the 70s. So all of the, like you said, Monsanto and Roundup, and the fact that 95, this is the scariest part when you hear the term organic for food anymore. It's not organic because 95% of the farmland in the United States is already loaded with glyphosate. It's already been used since the 1970s. And the worst part is it's not just in the soil, it's in the water supply, which is also in the air. Because if you remember
Hmm.
biology class from middle school, it's all circular, right? So water comes
Yep,
down
that's
from
right. I do remember that.
into the soil, gets to go back up, and you go, well, shit, if it's here, it's
Yep.
there. And if it's there, it's in us. And if it's
Uh-huh.
there, and there, it's in us. So,
Yep.
we have this issue. And when you have a wife that is a whole heck of a lot smarter than you listen. And what she's
Hmm.
done, like you were talking about, is you get introduced to products and you go, okay, I'm going to try them. You go, okay, and maybe you don't know what they're supposed to do, but when you get to experience them, you're like, holy crap, this is different, because it is.
Yeah.
And she understands
Yeah.
how the entire landscape works. That there's no such thing as a silver bullet, because this operating system, this amazing quantum computer, this compilation of light and energy that we are, this, and that we are a physical holographic projection of everything that goes on the inside. Just like a computer, that if you're going to reset a computer, you have to hit Control Alt Delete, right? And you have to hold those three buttons down in order to
Hmm.
reset the operating system, and it'll clean itself up a little bit, and it'll reboot and turn back on, and it'll work better. And if you need to, depending upon what you're doing, you can do that daily. You could do it once a week. You could do it monthly. But you have the opportunity to reset it. That's what we need to do with our operating system. So when you look at the delete aspect, we have our foundation, which are the three products you were talking about: clean slate, zero in, and restore. Clean slate's really the foundation, and that is the little systemic detoxifier that will grab onto all the heavy metals that we just talked about being so nefarious: the viral fragments, mold spores, biotoxins.
Hmm.
Did I mention viral fragments for people that are like shot? And so you can start to remove that stuff while delivering trace minerals and the key building block, which is bioavailable silica. And then you have Restore, as you mentioned, that is phenomenal for your gut, for killing off fungus, for decreasing systemic inflammation, and for healing, bringing your gut back. And like you
Hmm.
mentioned, it tastes like orange creamsicles on a good day. And then
Yeah,
the
it
last
does.
one,
I'm going to show people really quick what they look like. This was one of the weirdest things I got. I was like, ooh, what's this? They're little packets, and all you do is they're squishy. Cut this little sucker open and just squeeze it in your mouth. Boom,
and you can
done.
refrigerate them, you can keep them out. You can freeze them, and they make great popsicles during the summer. It's kind of cool.
Oh, smart.
But you have the ability to take care
Yeah.
of the gut. And then the last one, the most important piece to this um, entire environment, is the one that you were hitting on the most, which is my favorite, which is zero in. And what zero in does is it feeds your gut what it
Mhm.
needs to produce more dopamine and serotonin. And neurotransmission is the most important thing for us right now, because if we don't have exceptional amounts of neurotransmitters, we don't function very well. You're going to be overstressed, because stress, and you think of what's gone on, everything in the media, everything you hear about is all fear-based, right? It's all this
Mhm.
happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, these things are going on. It's to keep you in fight or flight mode, because if your cortisol levels are high and you're stressed, you can't produce dopamine and serotonin. Well, what does dopamine do? As Rick James said, cocaine's a hell of a drug, right? Dopamine allows you to feel outstanding. Everything becomes fun. You can hyper focus. You just get stuff done. Sports become outstanding. You don't fatigue. You react faster. But the problem with the synthetics like cocaine and heroin is, one, they'll kill you. Two, they're terrible for you. Three, they'll cost you not only all of your finances over time, but your life. And they're not good for you.
Yep.
You need to be able to do it endogenously. But on the other side of the equation, you have serotonin. And serotonin is what helps keep you calm and relaxed and happy. So when you have the ability to feed the gut, you can think of your gut like the engine, right? And the engine is going to feed your brain,
Mhm.
which is your primary operating system. And all of this communication goes through your vagus nerve. So you have your brain, your heart, your gut. They're all connected, right? So the people that are saying, the gut is your second brain, yes, but your third brain, possibly more important than your gut or this brain, is your heart, right? Energetically, spiritually, you have these three components,
Yeah.
all connected through one aspect of your nervous system. They all need neurotransmitters to communicate and function. So if you're not producing enough of those, you're not going to be what you're capable of
Right.
being, right? Athletes, we're always searching for that edge. How can we become better? But the general public, we've kind of lost that part, right? We're just in the process of existing. We don't really have the time or the inclination to focus on, you know what? How do I get better? How do I get a little better every day? How do I
Mhm.
become the best version of myself? And this is, for me personally, with what we're seeing over the last 3 years, this is that journey, right? This is what's been played out. We reached our tipping point to where we've been given the choice, right? Because we have free will, and people have been given an opportunity to choose. You can choose what the darkness wants you to take, which is
Mhm.
pain, apathy, imminent death,
Nope.
and the opportunity to eliminate 40% of the population.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is
Mhm.
my amazing spouse um, was given an opportunity to speak in a place called Davos a couple weeks ago. So she was invited to the World Economic Forum. She is the United States ambassador for the European Women's Association. So she was invited to speak on a couple panels, one for women's empowerment and one for the environment. Now, they weren't expecting her to have her perspective, which was not in line with anything that is really discussed at the World Economic Forum. But it was intriguing because in meeting with ex-prime ministers and CEOs of different influence and different people, it was interesting because they were actually echoing what we hear on the outside of, oh, they do want to decrease the population. They don't they think, and
Mhm.
they want to manufacture this, that there won't be any meat for the population by 2030. This is their mindset. They want to kill off about 40% of the
Yeah.
population, right? Because and they don't want to kill off everybody because they need people that can clean their houses and cook their meals.
Of
but
course.
they want to eliminate the useless eaters, as they say, and the people that aren't productive. And her position was, she's like, look, we don't need to kill off
Wow.
people. What we need to do is lift everyone up and create an environment that is conducive for everyone to live well in, because that's what we're made for, which are two disparaging philosophies,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in understanding that, you look at the game that's being played, where those that have the influence, you know, a lot of times the money, or that have accumulated political influence to
Mm-hmm.
dictate how things go, they're trying to push this narrative. And through pushing that narrative, they only have the ability to influence one thing, because they can't make any of the decisions to make this happen. It is our free will. It's our choice. We choose how this game is going to go. It's not their choice. Now, if we willingly bend to their mandate, then we lose. But if we don't, if we
Mm-hmm.
realize, wait a minute, we're in control of this game, and this is why The Matrix was the documentary, right? It was letting everybody know, just like Christianity was, the philosophy of Christianity was based upon of trying to get people to understand that, one, it's a personal relationship with Christ. That's what it's all about. It's not about the church. Who really created the church,
Yeah.
right? But it's your personal relationship with Christ, and understanding that, was he made in our image, or were we made in his? And that means we are him and he is us, which means we are light just like he was. We're just not tapping into our potential. The Matrix showed that.
Right.
So,
Yep.
and it was when we went through a process of finding the Trinity, right? Because Neo, when he took his red pill, he became aware. He was not awake. He had to find the Trinity first in order to go through his awakening process. That's why we have the Trinity, because we had to put the symbolism in place to give everybody an idea of what was happening. And through that
Yep.
journey, you begin to become awakened to what's happening. You decalcify your pineal gland, which is the light center of the brain for sleep and for your circadian rhythm, but also our spiritual aspect. That reconnects you back to your light. So you can start receiving the information that we're supposed to receive, that what we're made to, sunlight, everything else. When we own this, game's over. Because when you look at it on a sheer number basis, if there's 8 billion of us, right, and there's less than 1%, right, of them. There's maybe, we'll give them 8 million people, but there's probably like 800,000, right? 800,000 that are in this club, right? The bloodlines, right? That they call, right? Which is interesting, because which is stronger, draconian bloodlines or our bloodlines? Because our bloodlines run a whole hell of a lot deeper, and there's 8 billion of us and 800,000 or so, or 8 million of them. I'm going to take the 8 billion.
Yeah.
But we have to be in the position that we are taking care of ourselves, that we're functioning and resonating higher, that our systems are running the best that they can, that we're removing all the chemicals and toxins, we're allowing our operating system to function better, we're healthy, we're younger, because biological age and chronological age are not linear. Just because you're 70 years old doesn't mean you have to feel like you're 70, like 70-year-olds feel now. You can be 70 and actually biologically be in your 40s or 30s, depending upon how you're functioning on the inside. So when we start doing that collectively, that's when society starts to change. And we're at this interesting tipping point now, because it's our choice, right? We get to have these conversations. You know, you have people that are creating their communities, and everybody has a different messenger that is they find comfortable in getting information from, right? So your audience
Yeah.
might love listening to you, but if we put Joe Rogan on here, they'd be like, I don't like Rogan, I like Lindsay. Like, cool. Because you have better ink and better hair. But
That's right. I
we're,
agree.
we're all finding our tribes, right? And now it's a matter of watching them come together, and all these
Mm-hmm.
tribes realize, wait, you know what? If we're separated, it's one thing, but if we all come together and understanding that we're all in this game together, and this is the big part, as we start to clean up and as we start to collectively vibrate higher, then from a societal standpoint, we're going to start to see all of this shift, because it's our intention, it's our beliefs that are creating the environment around us. And when we stop worrying about the negative and start focusing on, the creation of what we are and the empire that we as our society had built initially and can develop again, will make America great again. But it's beyond just America. It's all of it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to worry about the rest of the bullshit. So that's probably
In
a little
general.
further than we go.
Yep. I loved it. I loved it. It's good information. It's good to know like who's behind the brand. And hey, take this, it'll improve your skin. It's not about vanity. It's not about pretty. It's about how do we get ourselves in fighting condition?
Yeah, but it's important. It's important to
Because that they
understand
have put in us for years.
healthy is beautiful, right? You won't
Mm-hmm.
find many healthy people that don't look good, right?
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
beauty and health starts on the inside and is expressed externally, right? So if you're full of, like, we'll just look at your liver, right? Because most people know that if you have a toxic liver toxicity creates aggression and anger, right? So anger is not something that is very attractive, right? So if you're never happy and you're always on edge, people are going to look at you like, I don't want to hang around that dude, right? But if you're relaxed, if you're calm, if you feel good, those things make a big difference. If your organs are working properly, your body is able to produce, the collagen that it needs because of getting those key components you need, which is why you've got Give Me Back My Youth. Your skin's going to look amazing, your hair is going to be amazing, your nails are going to be great, your joints aren't going to hurt. Yeah, it's good times.
Well, so, additionally, like you're saying, it all works together. Okay. If your body is healthy, if you're eating good foods, you're working out, you feel good, your mental health improves, and that confidence is portrayed, and confidence is attractive. There are people that behave as if they are a supermodel, and they may not be, but that confidence alone is attractive. And that person is confident because I know that I'm healthy. I know that I'm not packing around chemicals and fats and trans fats and fluids that I don't need. And you are right when you say that we're made in the image of God, and yet we don't look like that anymore, because, and not fat shaming, not saying fat people, I'm saying healthy people. We don't live off God's gifts. We don't pick apples from trees. We literally eat food out of plastic microwave containers and cans. So not that, my eating habits are perfect, but all that help cleanse your system, get that stuff out, and start putting you on track to a more natural lifestyle.
Well, and you mentioned fat shaming, right? And we have an obesity problem. And actually, we don't just have an obesity problem, we have a fat people problem in this country. And it's really interesting how this game is played, right? Because they're like, oh, you can't get on people for being fat. Well, if the monikers that are put on these issues, they're like, oh, well, if you're fat, you're lazy and you're not doing the things you need to. Well, what is it that you're fat? Or is it that you're inflamed and your endocrine system isn't working properly? And if your endocrine system isn't working properly, your body's not producing the right amount of energy. And if you don't have the right amount of energy, you're not going to want to do stuff anyway. So, and when you start to understand the aspects of environmental toxicology and how these toxic metals will disrupt all of these aspects of your body, and as they build up in you, your cells have to protect themselves, your organs have to protect themselves. So your fat cells are that protective mechanism, and they will start to hold on to and absorb those toxins or as much as they can, which means the fat cells swell, and those toxins are highly inflammatory, so it causes them to inflame even more. So it's not that you're fat and lazy, it's that you're freaking inflamed. And as you start to remove
Interesting.
all of this mess, and this is not a 1 week thing, this is not a 30-day, 90-day, ideally it's womb to tomb. Our root babies have been absolutely outstanding. But in the geriatrics that we work with, we have an 85-year-old that's racing motorcycles. He drag races motorcycles, and he's crushing 20-year-olds on his reaction time, which is something I would love to do. I don't ride motorcycles now. My mom said I was never allowed to ride motorcycles because she spent her college time picking gravel out of guys that had dumped bikes on the highway. She's like, "You're not doing that." But when I'm 85, damn it, I'm going to drag race motorcycles. And if you can react,
that's right.
Yeah, if you can react faster at the age of 85 than 20-year-olds, you're doing something right. And it's just the point of doing this reboot process every day, right? Control Alt Delete every day. Let your system clean itself out, reboot, restructure, get really good deep sleep. You're dreaming, you're recovering. Your pineal gland is taking the serotonin that's being produced and converting it into melatonin and DMT, so you get amazing dreams and deep sleep, which allows your brain to wash itself and detoxify. You wake up feeling like $1,000,000, and you feel good in the morning because you get a little dopamine kick, because that's how it's supposed to be. You spring out of bed, you're like, "Hey, I'm ready to go." That's how we're supposed to function, not this groggy, crap, I hate the day kind of deal. We're not made for that. We're made to get up and get going. So, and it just comes down to
what do you have to drink over there for a cheers? We're going to do a cheers at the end of this episode. You got a delicious clean water or something like that?
I was going to say tequila.
Do it.
I mean, I'm a tequila guy because, I don't drink a lot. But when I do, I drink good tequila, because tequila is actually antimicrobial and it's based on agave, and it's actually good for you. It regulates blood sugar. It's actually good for you.
Good to know. I'm drinking my toxic-free water with my Give Me Back My Youth in it.
Oh, I got my water. All
right, so I have a really great cheers, but you get to determine the cheers. So what are we cheersing to?
To your audience.
Oh, they're going to love that. They'll be thankful.
Because it's about family, right? It's about community. And I think it's the most important thing. Like, we have holidays to spend time with family, but the important part, I think, is for us all to understand that we are all family. We're all blood. Because if you go back far enough, we all come from the same source.
That's right.
So cheers. My parents, Christina and I flew back to the state of Washington to go visit my parents because they had their 50th wedding anniversary. And so we got to do family time. But, our business philosophy was really predicated on creating a larger family. And so, that's the one thing that I think, if we're going to do cheers to family and community. And as Kanye said, I got to thank Dave Chappelle for this. Everyone should live by this moniker. If you haven't watched the Chappelle Show, Dave Chappelle, when he met Kanye West, he talks about it in one of the episodes. This was right before Kanye became Kanye. He's like, "My life is dope, and we do dope shit." This is what we should aspire to. So we cheers to doing dope shit.
Thanks for tuning in to the Patriot Barbie podcast. Follow me on Truth Social @the Patriot Barbie, and Instagram at the.patriot.barbie. Subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends. You can find this show, my book Targeted, and my apparel line on www.patriotbarbie.com. God bless America, and God bless you.